My dad, 53M, has been ignoring his serious health conditions for decades and called my mum a cow for bringing it up. Tonight, my mum found a ripped-up letter from his doctor saying he needs urgent tests and we don't know how to make him take us seriously before he drops dead. F22 recently posted in a health-specific subreddit a few days ago asking for advice on how encourage my dad to be open to treatment, but given the letter we found I feel like a confrontation is inevitable and I don't know how to navigate it. I'm going to describe his health conditions for context, so if you're not into that, skip to the bottom. Basically, my dad has always brushed off his health. He is a successful software architect with his own company and openly derides sports or physical activity. He eats terribly and compulsively, to the point that I often leave the room when he eats because he just won't stop and it's very stressful. Around 15 years ago he was diagnosed with severe sleep apnea, but refused treatment because he said the CPAP mask is uncomfortable. He falls asleep everywhere, on the toilet, in meetings, basically anywhere he is sitting for more than 3 minutes, stops breathing several times a minute, and snores so loudly it can be heard through the whole house. Sleep apnea is associated with dementia, Alzheimer's, early death, not to mention your quality of life is terrible because you can't stay awake for anything, but he says he's fine. He's also been diagnosed with severely high blood pressure, another apnea symptom. Too high, in fact, to be treated with medication, so he's on 3, which he doesn't take. We think he was diagnosed with diabetes last time he went to the doctor. 2, which is especially concerning because everything below his knees is swollen and purple. I screamed when I saw his feet last week because there's a giant lump on the top of his foot, which is dark purple, and my mum and I didn't leave until he made a doctor's appointment. Guess what? He doesn't have time until next month. My mum thinks this is so he can try to fix his numbers before they do a blood test. Lo and behold, today, my mum found ripped up paper on the dining table and pieced together a letter from the doctor saying he needs to have his A1C tested to check his diabetes. I can't believe he actually opened it, read it, and tore it up. He's a grown man, and this is pathetic. If we remotely mention his sleep, or his swollen limbs, or the fact that sometimes his face spontaneously swells up, he gets upset. I'm fine, leave me alone. Jesus, you're such a cow. What the fuck? He's the only breadwinner, so it's not like we can threaten him with anything. I really don't know how to make him take it seriously. My mum and I both have chronic illnesses we suck up and deal with, so the fact that he's behaving like this is very insulting to us and we have a hard time engaging with it without getting overwhelmed. It's terrifying. I feel like I'm watching my dad die in slow motion and he's calling us names because we love him and want him to live better. What can I say or do to help him? Edit. Just want to provide some extra context since I'm seeing a lot of incorrect assumptions. Yes, I am chronically bipolar, but I live across the country, with my partner, and am financially independent. I am home for the first time in 18 months because my partner told my parents my symptoms had become unmanageable and my dad insisted I quit my job so he could fly me home and pay my rent for a month so I can stabilize. I'm bringing this up because he's got so much worse in the year since I'd seen him, and since I'm flying home next week, I want to see what I can do before I leave. My mum is a full-time homemaker and takes care of my 14-year-old brother. She is chronically ill, yes, but she does 100% of the housework and shopping. When my dad travels, she and my brother can be alone for weeks. My dad is very adamant she doesn't have to work. I think he takes a lot of pride in his success and the fact his family can rest, or go on nice holidays, etc. Is it dysfunctional? Maybe, and that might be why I went 3 time zones away for university. But there's also a lot of love. My mum, brother and I all have chronic conditions we take very seriously. We're all medicated and regularly see our specialists. Update, mum just confronted him about the letter. Dad got immediately defensive and angry. He maintains he does not have diabetes and is very annoyed they keep sending these letters. Mum pointed out they wouldn't send them if he didn't have diabetes. He says he ate a bunch of bagels before a blood test once and it triggered a false positive, but they redid the test and it's been negatives ever since. Mum is in tears. Update 2, Mum told me today she bought life insurance years ago. Apparently it's cheaper to do that in your 40s. We had a chat and I told her a lot of the things you guys have been mentioning. He already seems to be experiencing heart failure. We need to make sure we're taken care of if he decides he'd rather die than go to a checkup, etc. So I feel a bit better knowing that she's just as aware of things as I am. We brainstormed various ways of confronting him again, like demanding to see his A1C results through his health portal, but I think it's best to just leave him be and make sure he goes to this appointment in a few weeks. If he decides to be difficult about that, then we'll talk. So here's the thing, your mother is not this man's keeper. Neither are you. While it's expected in a functioning relationship, be it romantic or not, to support and encourage each other, it is also understood that you can't make a grown-up person do what they actively refuse. You guys can tell him how you feel. You can leave a room when it's like a wildebeest. You can drive him to visits at the doctor office and keep him company. Your mother can decide whether or not she wants to be present for your father's self-destruction. But make him care. When all your reasoning, pleas and tears have fallen on deaf ears forever, you cannot. Sorry to say this, but there is not much you can do. He has to want it, plain and simple. Who does he respect or listen to? His lawyer, accountant, business partner? Maybe try to appeal to them and see if they can get through to him, especially if it means that if he dies they no longer have a job. Actually just googled this, news to me, but adult protective services can be called for self-neglect. Just keep encouraging him to be seen by a doctor. This sounds like the exact thing that went on with my MILF for years. She was incredibly unhealthy but rarely went to the doctor. Then on November 11, 2019 she finally agreed to let me and my husband take her to the doctor for a routine checkup. Sadly, the routine checkup turned into the doctor's office transporting her to the local ER for extreme BP and breathing issues. Then that turned into, "Mom, your entire abdomen is covered with unknown masses. We need to run some tests." Turns out she had stage 4 cancer in her lungs, pancreas, breasts, liver, and colon. She was immediately put on hospice and died less than a month later on December 3, 2019. Needless to say, my husband and his brother were devastated. She raised them both by herself and suddenly their only parent was just gone. They couldn't believe she hadn't been warned about the possibility of these cancers until they started going through her closet, after she had already died, and found dozens of letters from her doctor where he referred her to multiple specialists, testing, etc. appointments that she never went to. Even sadder, we found out we were pregnant with what would have been her first grandbaby less than a month after she died. The whole thing just sucked, and my husband still isn't over it. Ultimately, everyone has the right to care for their own health as they see fit, but it sure breaks my heart to see another situation so similar to mine that all I can do is tell you to keep encouraging him to be seen. But if he won't, you can't blame yourself. Have you considered mental health issues and that he wants to die? I highly doubt it. He's always been extremely stable, enjoys his work and is constantly making ambitious plans for holidays we'll go on and things like that. He follows through, too. I suffer from bipolar depression and have been actively suicidal several times in the past 7 years, and he's very adamant about giving me a life I want and providing for me so I can go get treatment. Double standard, much? I think it's more the idea of being sick would be inconvenient for the life he enjoys. Sorry to hear this, and it's very sad. Unfortunately it sounds like he's accepted the issues and ready to succumb to them. Only thing I think is possible to help this is professional help. Reddit is definitely not the place to try and figure this one out. I'd get your mom to contact his doctor since she is a spouse. Tell her to bring the torn up letter to the doctor when she visits. Though they might not be able to do much if he's alert, oriented, and not in any immediate danger. Again, I'm sorry. This is terrible. Thank you. I told my mum yesterday, actually, to please go with him to the doctor to make sure he doesn't cancel the appointment or lie to us about what they tell him. She seems hesitant and tried to passively bring it up to him. Me / wants me to go to your appointment. We're all very passive people, and I think she's just as afraid of these confrontations as I am. Especially since he morphs from a fun, sometimes mansplain husband into a chauvinist when she won't drop the subject, or starts crying because she's so afraid for him. I feel terribly for her. Edit to say that I don't think he's ready to succumb, but rather he's dug himself so deep in denial he genuinely believes he'll be okay. It's maddening. My 32 meters wife, 30F, quit her job and left me with all the bills to pay. I work 4 jobs and odd jobs to help make ends meet. My wife is stressing me out now and can't get along with people at work. Every job she has ever had, it's the same thing, some type of drama happens and she quit. I'm stressed and exhausted, putting in so many hours a week, and I can never catch up with the bills. Something is always behind with her. Now she tells me rent is due, she can't ask her family for help and expects me to work a miracle. My credit is bad and she burned a bridge with my family, so I can't ask them for help. I don't even have any friends to ask for help either. I'm just sick of it. Edit. Thank you all for the advice. It's so much to read, but I don't have anyone to talk to, so it's been nice to read all the comments. I did have a talk with her and she broke down crying. She is diagnosed with depression and with bipolar disorder and just started medication early this year, so that's why I'm not too quick to jump on the divorce advice. She doesn't qualify for disability, but will get a job in the meantime. She agreed to downsize housing and cut off the bills we don't need until we get back on our feet. About my jobs, I work in merchandising for 4 different companies. It's not the regular retail shifts one would be accustomed to, but they are flexible and allow me to go to college and also pay well, $15 per hour. Each company gives me about 10 to 15 hours each week, so it keeps me busy. I had a decent job in the oil fields, but got laid off. I'm trying to apply for something better. I get final interviews but can't seem to get over the final hump because I probably lose to someone slightly better qualified, or they think I'm too educated. Your wife's a common denominator. It's not going to change. Tell her to get her childish ass a job or she's out. Cut unnecessary expenses, like giving money to wife or the wife herself. You're let off due to budget constraints. She's got some issues. If you're not up for ending the marriage, you've got to cut costs and live in a way that you can manage to support your family on your single income. My guess is you're probably already living about as cheaply as you can, and she probably won't stand for a lower quality of life. My advice is generally, no matter how much you love someone, if they don't have a positive impact on your life, it's time to cut them loose. My credit is bad and she burned a bridge with my family, so I can't ask them for help. I imagine there are lots of relevant details hidden in this one sentence, and most if not all of them point to your wife dragging you down repeatedly. Stop lighting yourself on fire to keep her warm. Girlfriend 24 lacks empathy for other humans. My girlfriend, 24, and I, 25, have some problems. We've been together for over a year and a half, and I've noticed during this time if I mention my friend's pet dying, or even a friend themselves dying, the response is always sucks to suck or should have been watching them better. Yet, when her friends have a problem, she's all over it, super caring. She says she only cares about the people she cares about, and I understand that to an extent. I'm not going to sit and cry over someone else's child dying, but I understand the situation and feel some emotions about what other people are feeling, even if I don't personally know them. I'm just a little concerned that another human being can be so cold about negative situations happening to their fellow human. I'm not sure how to approach this with her, as every time I've tried, I've been told I can leave if I'm so unhappy, and that she's not going to change for me. Grateful for any advice. Thanks in advance.